Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm switching it up a little bit by reviewing some comebacks. We're about halfway through the year, so I decided that it was time to stop and reflect on the first 6 months of 2020. A few quick disclaimers as per usual. Number one, everything said in this video is based purely on my personal preference. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. Just be respectful about it. Number two, the majority of these comebacks will be girl group comebacks as I am a girl group stan. And number three, I'm not going to be covering every single comeback, obviously, just comebacks I paid close attention to and or found interesting enough to talk about. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's just get into the video. I know a lot of people criticize this comeback, from saying it was underwhelming, to the reoccurring claim that they copied Blackpink, to the line distribution, blah 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 blah, but I personally love this comeback and I still listen to Dun Dun like every day. I might be biased in saying this because I am a forever, but I thoroughly enjoyed every part of this comeback. I like this comeback so much that the Reminiscence album is already at the top of my favorite releases of the year, despite it only having 4 songs. And both Player and Salute are two of my favorite B-sides of the year so far. This comeback in particular has me extremely excited to hear how Everglow's discography shapes up, and I really hope that their next release is a full album. As for the concept and visuals for this comeback, I felt like this concept was a mix of both Bonbon Chocolat and Adios. I know this might seem like I'm saying that it was repetitive or boring, but it really wasn't. The styling for this comeback was by far their best. It wasn't anything super unique. It was mainly like sparkly and bedazzled shirts, shorts, and mini dresses. But in comparison to Bonbon Chocolat and Adios, the styling was much better, since the other two eras lacked consistency in the outfits from stage to stage and cohesiveness in the members' outfits in each performance. And in both Adios and Bonbon Chocolat, there were a handful of outfits that were just god awful, and in this era, none of the members looked bad. Overall, I really liked Dun Dun. I feel like a lot of people tried to convince me that it was bad when it was first released, and a lot of people are probably going to try and convince me that it's bad again in the comments, but so far this is one of my favorite comebacks of the year. This is my favorite comeback of the year so far, and I'm so shocked because I did not expect my favorite release to come from a group that I don't even stan. I'm very hesitant when it comes to listening to music of groups I don't stan. Don't ask me why, I guess I just hate trying new things. The only reason I even bothered to listen to this song is because I knew people were gonna ask me about it, and so I just decided to suck it up and listen to it, and I was surprised that I ended up liking it, especially as much as I do now. I did see some people expressing problems with this comeback because it was a girl crush concept and it strayed away from the image Cherry Bullet had created for themselves with previous releases. But to me, everything about this comeback was perfect. I might be biased in saying this because this was really my first impression of Cherry Bullet. I had listened to their debut Q&A last year and I wasn't really impressed by it, so I kind of forgot that they existed. But this comeback was amazing, and as a former music student, I love the fact that they sampled Fur Elise in this song. When I first listened to the song, I was originally worried about how the choreography would look because it felt like the dance would be sort of slow and lackluster, but watching the stages for it, I was not disappointed at all. The concept for this comeback was interesting to me because it was clearly meant to be a darker, more girl crush-esque concept, but it did so in a way that it was so different from what I've seen before. Most girl groups, when they do a girl crush concept, immediately jump to dress up in chains and fishnets and huge chunky boots and all black outfits. And while there are traces of this in this comeback, it wasn't completely over the top, and the color scheme centered more around bright colors like purple and orange. And because in the music video they were clearly acting as architects, most of their outfits both in the MV and the stages just had them looking like stylish construction workers, which surprisingly ended up working really well. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but as you can clearly tell, I love this comeback. I talked about this comeback earlier this year in another comeback review and I got jumped for it, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. I hated this comeback. Crossroads straight up sounds like a Time for the Moon Night remix, and when I said this in my previous video, buddies basically jumped me in the comments and told me that I was stupid because I didn't know it was a trilogy with Time for the Moon Night and Sunrise, and so they were obviously going to sound similar. But I had a couple of problems with this because number one, Sunrise and Time for the Moon Night don't sound like each other, so saying that they're meant to sound like one another doesn't add up. And number two, you can have a trilogy without making the title tracks of the trilogy sound identical to each other. BTS did it with the Love Yourself trilogy, Red Velvet did it with the Reva Festival trilogy. You can do a trilogy without having each title track sounding similar to each other. I said this previously as well, but Source Music has the tendency to run shit into the ground with Gfriend, and I was just so disappointed with this comeback. The only thing that kept me interested in this release was Labyrinth, which I wholeheartedly believe should have been the title track. The song is perfect, the stages are amazing, and it's 100% title track material, and I will die defending that. Overall, aside from Labyrinth, this comeback was boring, and I really hope that Source Music switches it up in the future. I also reviewed this comeback earlier this year, and I also got jumped for my opinion on this comeback, but I'll say it again because I still stand by what I said despite all the backlash I got for saying it earlier. I hated this comeback, and this was so disappointing to me because I wanted to like this comeback so badly. I listened to it multiple times hoping that my opinion on it would change, but it's been nearly 4 months since it was released and I still don't like it. Something about this comeback just felt so rushed and messy to me, and not in the sense that they didn't have enough time to plan this comeback because it was their first in a year, but just that it felt like such a desperate attempt on BBC's part to bring attention to Loona by hopping on a trend. So What sounds like a rejected Itzy song, and I know this sort of messy EDM type sound is popular right now among 4th gen groups, but I personally don't like it at all. Also, I usually don't like to harp on line distributions, but god, this song might as well have been a subunit song for Heejin, Kim Lip, Jimsol, and Chu because they sang more than half of the song. And don't take this as me hating on them because the line distribution is absolutely not their fault. I'm just pissed that a song that was supposed to be a comeback for the whole group, minus Hasul, ended up sounding like it was meant for a subunit. Also, I hated the rapping. It was literally the worst part of the song. It just felt like they were yelling at me and there was no cohesiveness or flow to it. I felt like BBC was trying really hard with this comeback to showcase how well Loona pulls off having no fixed positions, but it ended up doing the opposite, and this comeback clearly showed me that Loona is a group that needs fixed positions. Also, it kind of defeats the point of having a group with no fixed positions if you're going to repeatedly give the same members the most lines. I was hoping that the mini album would save the comeback for me, but it didn't. This mini album was their most underwhelming so far, and I rarely find myself listening to the B-sides. Overall, this comeback was so disappointing to me, especially because I was so excited for it. This is the first comeback since I started standing BTS where I actually prefer the title track over most of the songs on the album. I feel like in recent years BTS's title tracks were usually my least favorite songs on the album, and I ended up preferring the B-sides more. But I ended up really liking On. I love the dance break so much. I literally watch it like every day, and I wish that they had released a version of On Spotify including the dance break. As for the album, I did like this album, but I wish that there had been more OT7 songs as opposed to solos and subunits. I feel like I would have liked it more if there were more group songs, you know? But overall, I did like the album. Ugh is my new favorite rap line song. They ate that shit up. I wish that they had promoted longer along with some other songs on the album. However, they were promoting at a time when the coronavirus was really bad in Korea, so I understand why they didn't. But yeah, overall, I really liked this comeback. There are a lot of mixed opinions on this comeback, and I honestly don't think my opinions on this release are fully formed yet since it's so early. But a lot of people have begged me to talk about this release, so I decided to deliver. Just know that I might change my opinion on this comeback in the future. Starting with the concept, as I said on my community tab, I really liked the concept. I thought it was so unique and the girls pulled it off so well. It was this Garden of Eden concept mixed with a hallucination, and I loved it so much. I originally thought More and More was going to be a Gfriend-esque concept based on the first round of teasers released, and in a way it sort of was, but way more over the top because this is Twice we're talking about. The music video was beautiful, and I loved all of the special effects they used. Some people said that the music video was messy because of the effects of the hallucination, but I respectfully disagree. I felt like it really helped to showcase that the girls were hallucinating, and it was so gaudy and almost ridiculous looking, and I loved it. The only complaint I have for the music video was the shots of them dancing on the platform on a lake. Those shots felt really out of place to me. The rest of the music video was scenes of brightly colored gardens, pools, and rooms, and the shot of them on the lake just felt so plain in comparison. I feel like they should have added some giant CGI butterflies with a purple sky and flowers in the background to make up for it. As for the song itself, I went back and forth on whether or not I liked it, but as of right now, I think I do. However, I will say that when I first listened to this song, I originally loved Dubchang's rap, but now that I've listened to it multiple times, I don't really like it anymore. I feel like they've both had much better verses than this. As for the dance break, I was kind of underwhelmed. It wasn't bad, but I feel like I was under the impression that it was going to be more impressive than it actually was because of the teasers, which is sort of my fault because camera work, color grading, and editing all have a way of making something seem cooler than it actually is, and I fell for it. Twice said themselves that the choreography for More and More was the hardest yet, and I assume that they were talking specifically about the dance break, but I feel like the choreo during the pre-choruses is much more impressive and enjoyable to watch for me personally. As for the mini album, I still haven't come to a conclusion on whether or not I like it. So far, my favorite song is Make Me Go. I didn't really expect us to get the return of rapper Mina, but we did, and I ended up loving her rap even more than Chaeyoung's, which was so surprising to me. Nayeon said she wrote this song after watching a movie about a female assassin, and she started writing from the killer's perspective, and she fucking killed it, pun intended. I can totally see this playing in an action movie with a female spy. Also, this isn't a critique on the comeback, but I loved that Nayeon cut her hair short for this comeback. I feel like it works so much better for this era than long hair would have. So like I said, I haven't really reached a conclusion about this comeback yet, but so far I think that I like it, but please don't murder me if I change my mind in the future. This is Itzy's best release by far, and I am so surprised that I like this song. Prior to the comeback, I did not like Itzy's music aside from Cherry. I even remember when people asked me what my predictions were for Wannabe, I said I thought it was gonna sound annoying. I'm so glad I was wrong because I love this comeback. Ryujin's shoulder move at the beginning is so fucking iconic, and the choreography was amazing. I know some people didn't like the dance break and wanted an actual bridge, but I thought the dance break was completely fine and it made up for the lack of the bridge. However, next comeback, I would actually like to see Itzy have, a nice regular old bridge. I also loved Yeji's part during the chorus. It was nothing super crazy or unique, but I just love the way her voice sounds when she sings it. This is the only Itzy title track I actually liked, and I was super pleased with Wannabe. Similar to the title track, I surprisingly enjoyed the mini album a lot. I felt like Ryujin and Yuna really stood out this era, and I really liked their rapping in this release. Speaking of rapping, I feel like Itzy have finally found their footing with their rapping. I felt like in their debut it was all over the place, and now it sounds like they finally figured out their strengths, both as individuals and as a group. I really felt like this was such a step up for Itzy, and I really hope they keep it up for future comebacks. Signature has probably been the most raved about rookie girl group this year, and I unfortunately don't see myself ever getting into them. Starting with Nu Nu Nan Na, the song seemed sort of promising in the beginning, and then when it got to the chorus, I just completely tuned out. I hated the high-pitched whiny singing during the chorus, and the song itself was just unlikable to me, and I didn't have any intention of getting into Signature based on this release. Then they released a Saw, and I hoped it would be different and better from Nu Nu Nan Na, but I was wrong. It was different, but it once again sounded like another rejected Itzy song, even down to the lyrics and the dance break at the end of the song. It sounded like a remix between Dala Dala and It's Summer, and I feel like I should clarify something since this is my second time comparing a song to Itzy. I don't think Itzy owns a certain sound, or that Signature or Loona are copying them. I'm just trying to find the best and clearest way to describe how these songs sound to me. The only part of the song I really liked was a couple of seconds of the chorus. They also still had them doing that high-pitched whiny singing, which, as I said already, I don't like, especially with this song because it felt like it didn't fit the song. Also, I watched a couple of stages for Asa, and the styling was a hot mess. It seemed like the stylist just raided the clearance section of Forever 21. They also didn't care about the members' outfits matching or being cohesive during stages. Overall, I did not like either of these releases, and I'm especially disappointed because people hyped them up so much. This is by far TXT's best release. I can actually see myself going back and listening to the title track, which is great because I couldn't do that with their other releases. However, I do want to criticize the choreography. I've seen a lot of TXT fans praise them for having such unique choreography, but in this comeback specifically, I feel like the unique element kind of ends up sabotaging them. Watching the performances, it feels like the choreography is trying so hard to look different and unique that it just ends up looking messy. At the peaks of the song, it just fails at making you feel the intensity that the peak of the song is supposed to make you feel. I understand that's kind of circular reasoning, but you get my point. If I was watching these performances muted, I feel like I would have thought that this was a completely different song, if that makes sense. Keep in mind that this isn't a critique of TXT's dancing abilities, but rather the dance itself. I don't really have much else to say about the title track, but what I really want to talk about is the album. First of all, I already liked this album because there was less autotune, which I've been saying I wanted since last year. I like that I can actually hear what the members' voices naturally sound like. Second of all, the song Fairy of Shampoo is so fucking perfect. Maybe it's just because it makes me nostalgic, but it's such a beautiful song and it's the best B-side on the album. And apparently Yeonjun helped produce and write the song, which makes me like it even more because I would die for him. This might sound superficial, but I really love this comeback mainly because of the visuals. The concept for Dumhdurum was so beautiful, I could watch the music video forever and never get tired of it. The song also really showcased Apink's vocal abilities. I always kind of thought Chorong was a weak vocalist up until this release, but with Dumhdurum I realized that she actually has a good voice. It's just in songs like this where she shows her full potential in comparison to other releases. As I said earlier, the concept was absolutely beautiful. The music video kind of gave me these rich, popular girl vibes, but from different decades. Like some of the members were rich girls from the 20s, some from the 50s, some from the 90s, and some from the early 2000s. I loved it. There are so few groups who could pull off this concept well aside from Apink. The mini album was okay. It wasn't bad by any means, but it wasn't mind-blowing. My favorite song on the album is Overwrite, followed by the close second Moment. Overall, I just really liked this comeback, and I really hope that we don't have to wait another 16 months for a comeback from Apink. Starting with the song itself, I didn't really like it. There was nothing particularly bad about it. I just didn't like it. I also feel like I saw a lot of people raving about this release, but when I watched it, it just made me want to repeat some things I've been saying about Chungha ever since she released Snapping last year. Number one, people constantly rave about what an amazing dancer Chungha is, and I'm not denying that, but I have yet to see Chungha dance in a way that really makes my jaw drop. It's clear she has the potential, but I feel like the choreography for her comebacks just doesn't show her full potential, if that makes sense. I want Chungha to have a comeback based mainly on her dancing abilities because this is clearly where her strength lies according to basically everyone. Number two, Chungha relies too heavily on her backup dancers. Now before you jump me, I understand that Chungha is a soloist and that having backup dancers makes stages seem less empty. However, I feel like the quality of her choreography relies heavily on her backup dancers, which is a problem. The quality of the choreography shouldn't be reduced by whether or not she has backup dancers with her. It should be maintained whether or not they're there with her. It just feels like once you take away her backup dancers, you just have these half-finished dances, which I personally don't like. As for the concept and the visuals and the music video, I actually really liked all of them. It was so sparkly and there wasn't a moment where Chungha looked bad at all in the music video. I just wish that I liked the song so I could have enjoyed this release more. So to summarize the first half of 2020, I feel like there have been some good releases, but the year has been kind of dry so far. It's probably due to the coronavirus, so I won't jump to be critical just yet. But I really do hope that it begins to pick up as the year goes along, as more groups start making their first or second comebacks of the year. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!